Something real strange is happening right now with this Eagles Jalen Hurts conversation. Just 13 months ago, he was playing in his second Super Bowl and winning Super Bowl MVP. Now, there's suddenly reports questioning his leadership style, questioning whether he's too difficult to coach, questioning whether he's limiting the Eagles' offense. The real question isn't whether the criticism exists. The real question is, are we listening to legitimate football analysis or the beginning of a narrative shift? Because if this narrative about Jalen Hurts is true, it could change the entire direction of the Eagles. Let's go above the noise. Welcome to episode 2 of Above the Noise, a Zero Gravity podcast. I'm your host, Damani Adams, and here we cut through the headlines, the hot takes, and all the noise in sports. Today we're going to go above the noise on the Jalen Hurts situation in Philly, break down the NBA MVP race, and how the 65-game rule is really shaping the league right now, and react to the Thunder blowing out the Lakers tonight before we get into some quick hits. Let's start with the Jalen Hurts conversation, because I think the narrative around him is getting a little too out of control. We're talking about a quarterback who's 13 months removed from winning a Super Bowl MVP, and suddenly this article is questioning his leadership style and whether he's hard to coach. Now, that doesn't mean the criticism is completely unfounded, but it does mean we actually have to look at the full picture. If you haven't heard by now, a bombshell report dropped on ESPN, courtesy of Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler. They attacked everything from leadership style, changing play calls at the line of scrimmage, him not being a likable person, just all around attack on his character and his football acumen. Some parts of the reports were claiming that Hurts checks out or plays at the line, so Nick Sirianni and the Eagles may call a passing play that is going deep. Maybe somebody's running a route that is out of Jalen Hurts' comfort zone, and reportedly, Jalen Hurts is actually audibling that at the line of scrimmage in order to be more into his comfort zone. This is an issue for many reasons. If you're a veteran player and you know your comfort zone, you know your capabilities, you might have autonomy to do those things at the line of scrimmage, but everybody doesn't have that yet. And even if they do have the status and the resume to do it, they may not necessarily have the ability to do it at a high level like the great ones have done it, such as Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or like the coach may be comfortable enough to let them take the keys fully and go over the driving wheel. Reports also said that Hurts is reportedly not a fan of the pre-snap motion. So anytime you see players do motion as far as going from one side of the field to the next side of the field, or any type of movement to disguise a play or throw off the defense or try to get a gauge onto what the defense is doing by sending that player in motion, the reports are saying that Jalen Hurts doesn't like to do any of that stuff, which is part why A.J. Brown even came out and he was saying certain things about the offense feels stagnant, feels like we're running the same amount of routes, it feels like we're doing things that are very mundane and we're not upgrading, because even though we won a Super Bowl just 13 months ago, we have to continuously get better, because if you're not getting better, you're staying stagnant, which means that you're getting worse because everybody else is getting better. Now, in this article, they reportedly spoke to 10 people within the Eagles franchise to get this information, all obviously left anonymous because they didn't want to have a name attached to this asinine comments. Word for word, one excerpt from the article says, "Poor body language, not always bought in, and not the most coachable, and the players notice." Now, this to me kind of feels like a contradiction, because one of the things that we raved about with Jalen Hurts was his leadership style. Even though certain times, most times, as some may say, his game didn't pop off or flash off the quote-unquote paper or the TV, he still led whenever he needed to lead. He always stayed calm and composed. That was something that was revered. He always rose to his best performance in the biggest games when the team needed him most. Now, whether they won, whether they lost, whether it was a draw, that can be discussed, but the fact remains, and nobody can take away, that when the lights shine biggest, Jalen Hurts is usually always there and not why the team loses. Yes, you can say the team is stacked, so the team is carrying him. He doesn't really have to do much, just has to not lose, and he's just a game manager. But what's wrong with being a game manager? If you're winning Super Bowls, if you're able to do your job, if you're able to maintain and lead everybody, you don't have to have these prime Patrick Mahomes numbers, these Lamar Jackson fantasy-esque numbers. You don't need to do all of that. Just play who you are, know yourself, and go out there, and conquer your matchup in the best way that you know how. And the proof is in the pudding. He's done it multiple times. He's outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He's gone toe to toe with the greats, and he showed why he is to be respected. He is a franchise quarterback, and he can lead you to the Super Bowl because he's done it twice, winning one. For all the talks about Jalen Hurts being stoic, he's being hard to coach, standoffish, and everything like that, Jalen Hurts is going on his 6th offensive coordinator since he's joined the Eagles in 2020. That is not good at all. Not good. Even if you take it back further to college, he went through, I believe it was 12 offensive coordinators. He's literally had a new offensive coordinator every single year for the last 12 years. And through it all, he's won. He's stayed level-headed. He's been a leader. He showed up, never made excuses. You never question his work ethic and his will to win because he's always there putting everything he has on the line. And like I said, he shows up in the biggest moments repeatedly. Verbatim from the article, and I quote, "His steely resolve can be both a benefit and a hindrance as the face of the franchise. Force fields are good for keeping unnecessary distractions out, but bad for connectivity and allowing essential items in." Sirianni has compared Hurts' leadership style to that of basketball legend Michael Jordan, and his agent, Nicole Lynn, has likened his obsessive work ethic to that of former LA Lakers great Kobe Bryant. The unrelenting, demanding mentality toward not just himself, but his teammates can be met with mixed reactions, especially in a star-studded locker room like Philadelphia's. Now, a lot of things to unpack here. First of all, it was revered and highly celebrated that Jalen Hurts was stoic at times and nonchalant and all these things that are now seemingly going to his death. The Michael Jordan-esque thing. He signed to the Jordan brand for a reason. He's been close friends with Michael Jordan for a reason. Before the Super Bowl games, him and Michael Jordan would text. Michael Jordan would give him advice, tell him what to do, tell him how to act, tell him how to persevere through certain things. With the Kobe Bryant element as well, similar things. Everything that Jalen Hurts was praised for is now seemingly being used against him. The Kobe Bryant comparison as well. Everything that was formerly positive about Jalen Hurts is now seen as a negative. And while I will say that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's leadership style are acquired tastes and they're not for everyone, they do work at times. And it seems like if that actually is what Jalen Hurts' leadership style is like, it's been working. The Eagles have been one of, if not the winningest team since he stepped in the league behind the Chiefs. They've gone to 2 Super Bowls. If he hadn't fumbled in the first Super Bowl, who knows? Maybe he has 2 Super Bowls. The team is stacked. Of course, people use that to take away from him, but he's keeping everybody together, keeping the troops gathered, and making sure that, as he loves to say, the main thing is the main thing. And also, to add to that, I will say everybody's not Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. With all due respect, I love Jalen Hurts, but he's not Michael Jordan. He's not Kobe Bryant. Honestly, for his position, he's not even close, but his leadership style is one of his greatest qualities. So I'm not really sure exactly how this can be used as a detriment to him when that is one of the things that attracts guys to him. I mean, he's the godfather of A.J. Brown's kid. If he wasn't liked in the locker room, if he wasn't a good leader, you would not be the godfather of somebody's kid who's on your team. And speaking of A.J. Brown, he was the main culprit making all the noise the last 2 seasons about the offense, about Jalen Hurts, about the passing game, and things that just need to change. And in hindsight, with this article, although I don't fully believe it and feel like it's anytime people release things under anonymous names or just don't want anything attached to it, I always take a step back and think, okay, why is this coming out? Why is this coming out now? Who's this trying to protect? Who's trying to benefit from this? Because there's a bunch of nasty agendas in sports and in life in general whenever people release certain articles or things that can be regarded as hit pieces. The timing tells a lot. Whether they want to put their name on it or not have their name attached to it also tells a lot. These are just certain things that add to the validity or the invalidity of the articles that's being written. To the AJ Brown point, I would say it's interesting that despite all the noise that he was making, he was still loved in the locker room from not only just the locker room, but also the front office and ownership. Many times the GM, the coaches, and everybody will come out and say, hey, we love AJ Brown. He's a great player. You can't replace him. Even with all this noise about where is he going to go? Is he going to get traded to the Patriots? Is he going to get traded to the Browns? Is he going to get traded to the Raiders or so, the Chargers? Everybody's still coming out defending him, saying they would love to keep him. And of course, they could just be saying anything, keep up the smokescreen. But I still think that there's something, at least a little something, to the fact that he's still so regarded in such a high way for the Philadelphia Eagles. You also have to be careful because stories like this can become hit pieces for a team, especially when they're struggling. So while some of the information might be true, the framing always matters. Another thing to remember, the Eagles also are not afraid to move on from players. Carson Wentz went from an MVP candidate to being replaced super quickly. So if the front office truly believes that Jalen Hurts is actually an issue, I don't think they hesitate to pivot, as we've seen before, and that's how Jalen Hurts even got his job. I think this is a big year for Jalen Hurts and a big year for the Eagles in general as far as what direction the franchise will go in for the next 3 to 5 years between Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. It feels like almost every year Nick Sirianni's job is on the hot seat. People are calling for him to get fired. And through it all, he continues to persevere, win, thrive in all the toughest environments, and turn the season around even when even when it looks like there's no hope and things are going slow. If the Eagles offense continues to look like it did last year, you can definitely count on the noise getting louder, louder, and louder exponentially. This upcoming season is going to be huge for not only Jalen Hurts, but also head coach Nick Sirianni, who it feels like every single year his head coaching job is on the line and he's on the hot seat. Jalen Hurts as well, he's going to have to prove that he can expand the passing, expand the play calling, expand all the leadership, erase all the doubts of the naysayers, and just have a great year and just have an overall great year in going into the proper direction, leading his team to a hopeful Super Bowl. One thing people shouldn't forget, as I mentioned earlier, is Jalen Hurts is a big game player. He always gets up for the big games. And until that changes, I'm not ready to buy into this whole Jalen Hurts drama and the Eagles have a problem with their offense. Let's see how next year unfolds, and we'll take it from there. Now let's take a quick break. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment. And if you want deeper conversations beyond the headlines, make sure to subscribe to our Patreon, where we drop after the noise and off the record every week. Link is in the description. All right, now let's move on to our power index. The NBA MVP awards are heating up, and the 65 game rule is definitely affecting how that hierarchy is playing out. If you ask me, SGA always had it locked and loaded for about the last 2 months or so. He's been having the most efficient season by a guard since Michael Jordan. He's been doing things Michael Jordan hasn't even done. SGA is averaging 31.6 points per game, shooting 55% from the field, 38% from three-point, 4.4 rebounds per game, and 6.5 assists per game. Currently, OKC has the number 1 seed in the West. They're just 1.5 games in front of San Antonio Spurs, who Wemby would be my second place vote if I had an MVP vote. SGA is doing things that we haven't seen being done since Michael Jordan. And that's saying a lot, as the NBA has had a ton of guards between Michael Jordan and now. Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Stephen Curry, Chris Paul, just to name a few. And Luka would be third in my MVP voting. But for now, he just got injured. Luka just got injured in the game. Luka just got injured. 3 of the top 5 MVP candidates might not even be eligible because of the 65 game rule. Luka Doncic just suffered a hamstring injury and left the game. Allegedly, JJ Redick said he was cleared, but they just didn't want to risk further injury, so they kept him out. But still, the Lakers have 5 remaining games, and Luka needs to play in just 1 to be eligible for the 65 game threshold. Nikola Jokic, I believe, can only miss 1 more game before he's ineligible as well. Anthony Edwards is already ineligible for all awards, including All-NBA. Same thing for Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham, Luka, and Jokic are 3 of the top 5 MVP candidates that likely won't even be eligible to be on the ballot. And that is just insane disrespect. Luka has had a historic year, averaging 33.5 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 8.3 assists, 1.6 steals on 36.6% from the 3. Luka is leading the Lakers past all expectations for this year. For most people, not myself, but for most people, all expectations of the Lakers have been shattered already. Obviously, Luka won't ever be a first-team all-defensive player or anything like that, defensive player of the year, but His defense has picked up as he even got nominated for March Defensive Player of the Year. That's something that you wouldn't probably see in the past from Luka. So even though during a certain part of the season, his defensive intensity has regressed to the norm, he's picked it back up and been a lot more intentional on the defensive end during this last stretch of him going crazy, averaging almost 40 points per game, and the Lakers going, I believe it's like 15-2 in their last couple of games. And yeah, I just really don't like this 65 game rule at all. I know I spoke about this in the last episode, but it's almost going to get to the point where, I mean, yes, people say availability is the best ability, but it feels like we're getting to the point where it's no longer going to be who's the best players. It's going to be who is just available. So imagine somebody like Luka with the year he's had. He's not even going to be on All NBA at all if he misses the last 5 games of the season. Somebody like Jokic, if he misses another game, he won't even be on All NBA teams at all. This is not even about MVP anymore for me. This is just about the All NBA team. The All NBA team is supposed to be a snapshot into who had the best year this season and who are the top guys this season. Regardless if they played 64 games, that shouldn't mean that they're no longer eligible, and somebody who plays 65 games at a way lower level now gets the nod over them. Luka, and Edwards, Cade Cunningham. These are 3 guys who dominated the season from top to bottom and now cannot even be on All NBA team if they miss some more time. Nikola Jokic as well. And even in the bigger picture, the Luka Doncic injury means a lot for the Lakers. The playoffs are starting in about 2 weeks, and the Lakers need to be fully healthy. They cannot afford to miss any guys, especially their top guys, such as Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves. They all need to be healthy. Marcus Smart was out tonight. He didn't play against the OKC Thunder. We'll talk more about that later in the quick hits, but he needs to be healthy. They need a full roster because they don't have guys to spare, as every guy already needs to play out of his mind in order for them just to have a chance to get to the conference finals or hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy in June. Now let's step into the playbook because this conversation is going to get a little deeper. The best player in basketball conversation is actually way more wide open than it's ever been in years. Traditionally, the main names that you would hear of the last 5 years or so was, of course, Jokic, SGA, Luka, Giannis. Depending on where you put the cutoff point of his prime, some might say LeBron, even though he's obviously no longer top 5 right now. But Wemby has comfortably entered that mix this year. Honestly, if you ask me, he leapfrogged Giannis and probably Luka as well to be in that top 3, top 2 category. I think the best player in the league is a toss-up between SGA and Jokic, but Wemby is breathing down their necks, and trust me, he is not far. I believe by next season, there's a legitimate case that he will be the best player for sure in the NBA. I feel like for Wemby, he has all the tools. He has everything that's needed. He just has to take that next step offensively. And honestly, that could just be something as small as playing more minutes. Right now, the Spurs have him in the high 20s, low 30s on a game-to-game basis, which is okay. It's the San Antonio Spurs way of doing things. It's how they maintain the longevity of their players and sustain this long era of dominance and greatness. But from an individual standpoint, Wemby said it himself. He deeply cares about the MVP. He wants to solidify himself up there with the all-time greats. And in order to do that, he has to collect as much jewelry as he possibly can in his early days and in his prime. Everybody has done that. Michael Jordan and LeBron, the top 2 guys in the NBA's history, they early on collected scoring titles, MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year votes, and a Defensive Player of the Year award in Michael Jordan's case. Playoff wins, NBA Finals appearances, actual NBA Finals wins. They just understood that in order to be an all-time great and to have your name alongside the ones that came before you, you need things to show for it. Which is another reason why the 65 game rule to me rubs me the wrong way, is because it's affecting players' legacies and the way that we view history and do a versus of resumes. I think SGA, Luka, Wemby, and Jokic right now are the legitimate 4 players who have a real case to be labeled the best player in the world, but I don't think it's a de facto one guy right now and there's no argument for anybody else. All 4 of the guys that I named, a credible case to be regarded as the best player in the world. For SGA, it's his efficiency, his leadership, his composure, the way he's able to get to his spots, the way he's able to draw fouls. Some people may call him a free throw merchant, but to me, that's just heads up basketball. He understands the rule. He understands how to take advantage of it. If you went back in the day and looked at some of the old tapes, you could see similar things from guys like Michael Jordan, guys like Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Carmelo Anthony. Of course, everybody's style looked differently, but drawing fouls is an art form, and it's been a thing throughout the entirety of the NBA's history. So now, because of the social media era, everybody just wants to make fun and call names and say, oh, he's this, he's that. He's a great basketball player. That's what he is. Free throw merchant, whatever that means. He is getting buckets. They're fouling him. He's going to the line and he's making his free throws. Because you could easily not make the free throws and now they're worthless. And SGA is leading an OKC team that honestly looks like they're going to be the first repeat champions since the 17-18 Warriors. That's almost 10 years. For Luka, we already know who he is. An offensive demon. Whenever he's yapping to the refs, whenever he's going off, yelling, blacked out, he's in his zone. And there's nothing you can do about it besides hope he misses. Luka always is going to give you, for the most part, 15 to 20 in the first quarter. He's always going to get his heat checks up. He's always going to dance and dribble. But he's still a system within himself, as long as he's surrounded by the right players and he has the proper defensive acumen around him to disguise his faults. We've already seen Luka eliminate teams that we held in high regard out of the playoffs by himself, such as the Kawhi and Paul George Clippers, the Devin Booker Suns. He's done this multiple times, and we already know that Slovenian brother is the real deal. Luka doesn't have any MVPs right now, but he's stacked with first-team All-NBAs, has more than Steph has in his entire career already, and Luka's super young. He's led the league in scoring multiple times, with the highest average at one point. He's currently third in career points per game behind Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. Anytime you're on a list with those two names, you know you're doing something right. Nikola Jokic, not much really needs to be said, honestly. He's averaging a triple-double for the second season in a row, 27.7 points per game, 13 rebounds, 10.8 assists, 0.8 blocks on 38.7 from the three. He's never had a perennial all-star as a teammate. He's been basically doing this essentially by himself as far as stars are concerned. But we all know in that finals run, and even when they go deep into the playoffs, Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon are huge pieces and play well beyond their regular season numbers. But despite that, Nikola Jokic is revolutionizing the game. He's putting the team on his back. No matter who's out of the lineup, he's always doing his thing, and he's getting everybody where they needs to go without complaining, without flopping, just playing the game for the most part the right way. Before we wrap up, let's get to some quick hits. OKC embarrassed the Lakers tonight. Honestly, it wasn't even close from the get-go. They were down 20, 30 points in the first quarter, and from there, OKC did not look back. They scored 82 points in the first half. Lakers, their worst loss in over 2 years. For LeBron individually, that loss is the second worst loss of his entire career, coming second to November 27, 2023, when the Philadelphia 76ers beat the Lakers by 44 points. SGA kept his 20-point streak going strong, finishing with 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. Isaiah Joe went crazy with another 20 points. And just overall, a great team victory from OKC. Everybody was locked in. You know, with the OKC Thunder, you're going to get a cohesive victory. You're going to get everybody playing their part and not trying to overstep their role, because they know that together they stand, divided they fall. So it was just a perfect night of OKC basketball. For the Lakers, the story of the game, even though they lost in a historic way, is definitely going to be Luka Doncic and how fast can he recover from this. Now, it could be anywhere from a week, 2 weeks, to as much as 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how severe this is. We'll wait for the reports to come out in the morning, but that's not what you wanted to see as a Laker fan. One, such a massive loss on the scoreboard, but then two, such a massive loss on your roster, losing your top guy, MVP candidate, who essentially, without him, you have no chance. Now, this was going to be a battle of the MVPs to see if Luka could squeeze his way into the top spot for MVP. That did not go as planned. Luka had a horrible game, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists before going out with the injury. Not good at all. I say one key person that a lot of people may overlook is Marcus Smart. Anytime the Los Angeles Lakers match up with the OKC Thunder, Marcus Smart is going to be pivotal. Any team like that, even the Timberwolves, you need a Marcus Smart because he is their only on-ball defender on the perimeter. Jared Vanderbilt, yeah, he can do it as well. He's more of a wing guy, I would say. But Marcus Smart, he is the point of attack on ball defender that really gets the things going for the Lakers, especially on the perimeter. And honestly, after that, it might be Bronny as their second best defender. I know a lot of people have jokes about him, but he's been getting a lot more minutes now with the Lakers in this season after having dominant games in the G League. He honestly might be their second best defender on the perimeter. I don't know if that's a compliment to him or a sad situation on the Lakers end, but either way, it's just the fact of the matter. If the Lakers plan to do anything, they need to stay healthy from top to bottom. They can't miss their top guys, and especially when they're facing somebody like SGA, they need Marcus Smart in the lineup to be impactful. So while this was a huge loss for the Lakers, I will say it was probably a game that OKC needed to win more because they're still fighting for first place over the Spurs, who are just a game and a half behind them and own the tiebreaker. Kirk Cousins has signed a 5-year deal with the Raiders and officially passes Tom Brady in NFL career earnings. Tom Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion, has made $333 million in his career, while Kirk Cousins, who has one playoff victory, has made 341 plus M's and counting. That is crazy. He's not going to Hall of Fame, but his agent is definitely first ballot all shiesty. That is some insane work by his agent. Honestly, this upcoming season is going to be Kirk Cousins' 11th season straight playing on a guaranteed contract. That is so hard to do in the NFL, especially consecutively. As a quarterback, it may be easier, but you don't see things like this happen every day, especially with a quarterback the caliber of Kirk Cousins. Usually you might see this with a Lamar, a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, somebody who's the top cream of the crop. But somebody like Kirk Cousins, who teeters between the worst of the best or the best of the worst, is somebody who you would not think would have this amount of career earnings. But congrats to him. He's taken some risks. He's played on franchise tags where a lot of players may not have wanted to do that. He's taken the risk. He's done it, and it paid off. Scare money don't make no money. The exact deal on paper for Kirk Cousins is a 5-year, $172 million. What essentially is actually going to be a 1-year, $20 million guaranteed contract, with the club option for 2 years around $80 million. While on paper this looks like the Raiders gave him a lot of money, Falcons are going to foot a large part of this deal, specifically $8.7 million this season, whereas the Raiders only are for $1.3 in salary, also owing a $10 million fully guaranteed roster bonus in 2027. I think Kirk Cousins will start probably for about the first anywhere from 5 to 8 games or so, but then from there, I think Mendoza would take over. If Kirk Cousins continues to play well, we never know. We might see him play the entire year and then Mendoza comes over after. But regardless, I think this is just a stopgap. Nothing to be afraid of as far as those who want Mendoza to be the franchise quarterback for the Raiders. I still think that's going to happen. I still think they're going to draft him, and I still feel like he's going to be their guy. It's just a matter of when, not if, because this is the perfect contract for a stopgap quarterback, especially someone of Kirk Cousins' caliber who can win you games and will definitely lose you some games. So the work is cut out, and we'll see how this season unfolds for Kirk and the Raiders. March Madness. We cannot get out of here without speaking about March Madness. That Duke and UConn game was honestly the highlight of it all. And that's really the main thing that I want to speak about. Duke has been dancing with the devil the entire tournament. From the very first game with Siena, they almost and probably should have lost if it weren't for the coach of Siena not making a substitution until 10 seconds left in the game. You can tell from the Siena game that the players were getting dead tired in the second half, and with about like 7-8 minutes left in the second half, they looked completely on fumes. They couldn't do a thing, and that was when Duke snuck in and they got more comfortable, overtook the game, and never looked back from that moment. Even when Duke played St. John's, on my bracket, I chose Duke to go to the Final Four, but after actually watching the games, I was like, St. John's could actually pull this off. Their defense is gritty. They pick you up full court. They dive for loose balls. They're high energy, disciplined, and they believe in each other. They're good from top to bottom. That is a full team with a great coach. So I thought they could honestly do it, especially with Duke sleepwalking and seeming a bit top heavy as far as their performance on the court. The end of the game is something that Caden Boozer will never live down, and I'm sure the rest of the Duke roster. But to actually be the one that makes that bad pass that essentially loses the game and ends the season for your team, that is such a horrible, gut-wrenching feeling. And after the game, he even said it himself. He feels like he cost his team the game and their season, which is honestly true, but it's just a tough way to live and a tough thing to have to digest as a basketball diehard. Honestly, all he really had to do was hold onto the ball and get fouled, go to the free throw line, or take it from side out. And that's it. Duke probably moves on. We don't speak about this. We don't have the big Cinderella story, if that's what you want to call it, of UConn overcoming and slaying the big bad Duke. But that shot from Braylon Mullins, oh my God, that was one for the ages. Anytime we see the March Madness compilation, that shot is going to be in there. For that play to happen in that moment with that shot from that distance, a logo three, nothing but net with just a couple tenths of a second remaining, was honestly chilling. It gave me chills from top to bottom. UConn looks legit. They looking good. And we'll see what actually happens. UConn is looking good. We'll see what happens when they face Illinois, if they can actually get it done. It's going to be a great game. That's all I can say. And Dan Hurley after the game too, he's so funny. Honestly, he's great for college. He got offered the Lakers job last year. I don't think he should have taken it, and I don't think he should now leave to go to the NBA. His energy, the way he reacts with refs, the way he coaches his players, everything, I think resonates more with the college game than the NBA game. So him leaving might just be a bigger headache. It might just be him trying to see if the grass is greener on the other side, when we all know in most cases it's really not. So I think he should stay put there. He's doing a great job at UConn. He got them in the Final Four again and is en route to another championship. We'll see what happens. But for now, that's today's episode of Above the Noise. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. And if you want deeper conversations beyond the headlines, you can join our Patreon, where we drop after the noise and off the record every week. Link is in the description. Because at the end of the day, the headlines are loud, but the truth is usually above the noise.